has attracted far more interest, not just of me, but of you, right, and any number of the vast numbers of people in our society, whereas there's essentially no interest in colonizing Antarctica. There's no Antarctic Colonization Society that has meetings here across the country, every year and so forth. And in fact, we see a whole plethora of space societies here and abroad, and innumerable amounts of fiction envisioning human settlement of space. And why is that? Why do people want to settle Mars rather than Antarctica? And the reason is because it is a more significant thing to do. Okay? That ultimately what the question is what are you going to do with your life? And people want to do something significant with their lives. And it is very clear to many, many people all over this planet that the expansion of the human reach beyond the Earth would be a radical transformation in the human prospect. And therefore, it is something that is worth undertaking expense and personal hardship, okay, and a lifetime of effort, in fact, to achieve, okay? And that is why, because look, you could establish a human settlement in Antarctica, but it wouldn't change the human prospect in any significant way. And everybody knows that, and therefore there's no point doing it. So there's something else going on here, okay? And while, in this talk and in this book, I've talked about the humorous side of this, but this is human beings at play, which is what humans do. But at the same time that humans were playing in this way as we opened the West, we were also actualizing an idea, okay, which has been defamed greatly in recent literature, the Manifest Destiny. But what that was the idea of creating a continental nation committed to liberty, which is what was done. And what those people, it's a very interesting thing. There's a book called The Oregon Trail by Francis Parkman, a famous New England historian. Okay, it was written as a result of travels that Parkman did in the American West in 1846. It's fascinating, actually. Because Parkman was traveling in the American West, actually, to do research on American Indians in order to get background for his magnum opus, which was about the French and Indian War. And he wanted to find out what Indians were really like, because there were still Indians back in New England in 1846, but they had been ruined. They were just remnants living on reservations or in depressed conditions. They weren't living the life of the American Indian. But there were such people, of course, in the West still at that point, and he wanted to see them. So he's traveling around the American West trying to find American Indians, which, by the way, was difficult because they were very low population. But in the course of doing this, he ran into the people he called the emigrants, okay, which were the wagon trains going west, going to Oregon. The Oregon Trail had been opened up in 1843, and by 1846, the emigration had expanded exponentially. So he runs into these emigrants in the wagon trains going to Oregon, and he talks to them, and he regards these people as insane, okay? Because why are you going to Oregon? There's still plenty of open land in western Massachusetts, to say nothing of Ohio, Illinois. Why are you going to Oregon? These people had been actuated by an idea, this incredible idea of creating a continental nation committed to liberty, and they were going to go all the way to the West Coast, which they did, to settle in Oregon. And in other words, there was a motive here that went beyond practical, went beyond economic. Yes, people do need to satisfy their economic needs in order to do what they have to do. But that's why they satisfy their economic needs, to do what they want to do. And these people were committed to this idea, this ideal. Okay. America was really settled for hope, not for greed. Okay. Greed plays a role in human behavior. People want to get ahead. Yes, sure. But people want to do grand things and are willing to put themselves at risk, life and fortune. So to return, so that deals with motive. Now in terms of practice, okay, I see an initial human base on Mars probably starting as a government operation, because initially it will be quite expensive to go to Mars, not prohibitively expensive, certainly nowhere near as expensive as bailing out AIG, a operation that hasn't done that much to raise the human prospect. But we can establish a base on Mars in this way. And I think everyone here can see how various processes, if somehow we can move the political system, could make possible the first human explorations of Mars and up to the level of establishing a government base or so. Well, once you have a government base on Mars, then there'll be a tremendous incentive on the part of the government to want to lower logistics costs to support that base. So a logical move would be to put logistics shipments for the base up for competitive bid. This would then create economic incentives for the development of cheap interplanetary transportation privately, okay, with this as an initial market. So you have that develop. So it becomes possible to go to Mars much cheaper. The base itself wants to reduce its logistics costs, otherwise by becoming as self-sufficient as it can. So it or others will have the desire to be able to develop all the technologies to make use of local resources on Mars. So not only does it become cheaper to transport goods to Mars, much less goods are needed to be transported to Mars per person supported. So with those two technological preconditions addressed, it becomes possible for human beings to emigrate to Mars at some reasonable cost. Now, it's still high, but you should realize, like when the Pilgrims came to America, the Pilgrims were not poor people in England. These were upper middle class people. And it took complete financial liquidation for one of them to be able to buy his passage to come over here. So in human terms, it was equivalent to like a $300,000 ticket price to take a ship one way across the Atlantic in 1621. You had to sell your house, everything you owned, cash in to go. And frankly, even when my grandfather came here in 1910, he was not an upper middle class person, he was a lower middle class person. He had to completely cash in to get passage across the ocean. And poor people who had no financial resources frequently had to devote 7 years' labor to indenture to get their passage. 7 years, $50,000 a year for a working man today. It's like $300,000, $350. Okay, so it's money, but it's doable if you're really committed to doing it. And I'm really glad he did it, because I'd be dead right now if he hadn't. But I think, therefore, okay, human nature being what it is, there will always be individuals who have strong reasons to want to leave Earth, either as individuals or members of groups who find it necessary to leave Earth. I think if it had been possible to leave Europe for Mars in 1939, there would have been millions of people that would have taken that opportunity, regardless of the financial cost. And it's unfortunate that there was not that opportunity. I also think that there'll be people who want to go to Mars because they want to do something significant with their life, to make a mark, to have new possibilities, to live in a place where the rules haven't been written yet and where possibilities are wide open. And this will be the motive for settlement, or there'll be many motives, just as there was here. It's a long answer, but it was a very important question, and I hope I addressed it. Sir?